your Literacy Zone Coordinator with Buffalo Public Schools Adult Education Division. Today I'm going to be talking about motivational interviewing. Now, the training in itself, the concept in itself is very detailed and in-depth. So this is more of a condensed version of it. But we'll see what we can get through today. Thank you. At any time, you can stop me if you have any questions or throw it into the chat. There will be times where I'll ask for suggestions. All right, so let's get started. So motivational interviewing has been around since the 1980s. It was developed by two psychologists, Miller and Stephen Rolnick. It was influenced by behavioral psychology or Rosarian, if you come from a psychology background, for client-centered therapy. Originally, it was used for substance use treatment due to the ineffectiveness of confrontational approaches when dealing with mandated or court-mandated clients. So these two psychologists came up with this theory or strategy to work with individuals. And since then, the last 30-some years, it has evolved somewhat, but is used in just every setting available. It's used by therapists, psychologists, social workers, teachers, case managers, and a variety of clinical, educational, and social service agencies. And it's also used worldwide as well. And again, stop me if you have any questions. So what is motivational interviewing? Well, first we're going to start with the technical definition from our authors. It is a counseling method that helps people resolve ambivalent feelings and insecurities to find their internal motivation they need to change their behavior. It is a practical, empathetic, and short-term process that takes into consideration how difficult it is to make life changes. As we know, working with our student population, making changes can be difficult and also produce a lot of anxiety. People tend to become stuck in limbo of indecision and discouraged by frequent failed attempts at change. And if anybody wants to throw into chat experiences they have in adult education working with our students, we do have people that, you know, we're a revolving door where they come in and out all the time. And a lot of times they come in very discouraged and not in a good place with their education or how they feel about education. So what motivational interviewing does help, it helps resolve ambivalence, reduce stress and negative behaviors, increase a feeling of confidence, self-efficacy, and bring in a personal motivation to change. What it does sit between, so as a case manager or a teacher working with individuals, we're not here to tell students what they need to do. We try to motivate them using the resources that they have to change their behavior. So I'm going to start off with the spirit, they call it, of motivational interviewing. Metaphorically, the spirit of MI is like a melody to a song. It creates the mood and accentuates the lyrics. It assists in creating a partnership and collaboration with the students. As the students are the expert, we want to hear from their perspective and input, and that's central to the relationship. So we're, as case managers or teachers, it's building that relationship and having a rapport that then facilitates trust in that helping relationship. That is the spirit of motivational interviewing. We respect the autonomy of the student and the ownership of the issues. So for example, how do we work together to come up with options? So we're not there as more of as an authoritarian person, helper in their life. We want to come up together with a plan. There are some components for the spirit of motivational interviewing. First is acceptance. So that's your absolute worth. That's understanding that our students have dignity. They're the same as we all are. They're trying to figure out who they are, where they're going, and how they're going to get there. Next is autonomy and support. It's the responsibility for change is left with the student. I talked about that a minute ago. This helps demonstrate respect for the student, for their resourcefulness and their ability to make their own choices or free will. The next is a strategy I'll talk about later is using affirmations, and that's finding ways to point out the positive things to the student. Affirmations about reinforcing those specific things the student says or does to assist them with the understanding about what they want to do next for their life. And lastly, empathy, which reflects an accurate understanding and assumes that the person's perspectives are understandable, comprehensible, and valid. Right now, I'm just going through the background or the essence of motivational interviewing. Next, after partnership, it's our ability to show compassion, to work with our students in a non-judgmental, non-blaming, non-shaming way, as we're striving to be as empathetic as possible. Essentially, we're trying to understand what the problem is like for the student and what that means to them. In counseling, we call that transference, is when we impose our values on our students or other people that we're working with. So part of motivational interviewing is to tap into the ability to have compassion and really try to understand the situation that they're in. Maybe they don't have running water. Maybe they don't have money to pay utilities or childcare, whatever that may be. In order to feel compassion for someone, we must comprehend their point of view and their experience, at least to some degree. Next is evocation, and that's drawing out rather than imposing our ideas. So motivation for change resides inside the student. It's enhanced by what we do is as case managers, not to impose our values or what we think that they should do, but is to bring out their internal motivation so they make their own decisions and come up with a plan to reach their goals. Does anybody have any questions so far? Oh, I see something in the chat, but I don't know what it is now.
Yeah, in the chat, it's just a message from me saying, feel free to put your questions in the chat. So,
okay.
But good to remind folks, you are absolutely welcome to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand, and then you can unmute, but that way we're just controlling it a little bit, and yeah.
Okay. Okay, next we're going to go on to the principles, and this is just a quote that I found that I thought goes well with motivational interviewing. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse, but if we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. So now I'm going to talk about the principles of motivational interviewing. First is empathy, which I talked about earlier, which involves reflecting on the accurate understanding. It helps build rapport with the student. It talks about body language, good eye contact, active listening, paying attention, being an active participant when meeting with the student. Second is supporting self-efficacy. We, as case managers, teachers, we instill hope into our students. Our students have tried before, they've struggled to achieve their goals, leading to doubts, and we help with their ability to succeed. With the principles, I did put some examples of a case manager or a teacher's role with some of these principles. So again, case manager's teacher's role is focusing on the previous successes, reminding them of their past achievements, B, highlighting their skills and their strengths, emphasizing the abilities and the talents they already possess. The third, which is an important principle with motivational interviewing, is developing discrepancy. And this enables the student to see that the present situation does not fit into their future goals. So this is a time where, as case managers and teachers, that we help them look at the gap between their current behavior and their values for their future goals. When you see how your current situations may conflict with your values, and theoretically, people become more motivated to make positive changes. So a question that I pose out here for this stage is, what do you think your life will be like in 1 year if you don't make those changes? This is where in motivational interviewing, we deal with discrepancy. The next principle is roll with resistance. This addresses the ambivalence or mixed feelings. It helps recognize and work through students' mixed feelings, as well as overcome barriers to assist students in finding their internal motivation to move forward. This is a signal for case managers, for teachers, to really start actively listening. And we'll talk about some strategies next when we start to see this type of resistance. Traditionally, what they found, the two psychologists, is that when resistance occurred, people naturally tried to not argue, but get into a tug of war with people, where with motivational interviewing, they see it more of a dance. Like I stated earlier, I talked about the spirit of it is melody, but instead of a tug of war, that it should be a cooperative partnership where we take an active role, not to correct behaviors or ideas or values, but to guide individuals. This is an important area of role with resistance. Again, this prevents from the breakdown of communication if we're able to identify it. So with this, it's letting students define their problems. They're able to identify their own issues, and we help with solutions. That does help reduce resistance. Also invite new perspectives. So case managers encourage students to consider new ideas, again, without forcing our own views. And also, this is a term that they use, avoiding writing reflex. So don't try to fix the problem for the student, but support them in finding new solutions. And sometimes this happens in helping, especially with helpers and people in helping professions. We automatically want to fix the situation and come up with a solution. But with motivational interviewing, what they say is, we're not supposed to do that. We're just supposed to guide. We're not there to fix. And theoretically, people that buy into their own ideas and solutions tend to be more successful in carrying out their plan. Any questions so far? Okay. So motivational interviewing is useful. This is in summary to help people examine their situation and their options when any of the following are present. So ambivalence. Ambivalence I talked about earlier. This is big, is identifying the mixed feelings. When it's high and people are stuck, it's more difficult to change. So this is something that we should be looking at when we're having conversations with our students. This could be at intake, this could be during case management time, but just know that when there's mixed feelings, this is where people tend to get stuck, and they're where we softly intervene. When confidence is low, people doubt their abilities to change. When desire is low, people are uncertain about whether they want to make change. And when importance is low and the benefits of change and disadvantages may not be on their radar, or it still may be unclear. So these are just indicators that I did want to add here when we are examining and we're working with students. Okay, so now I'm going to ask for some participation. So these are the strategies for motivational interviewing, and it's called ORS. The first one is open-ended questions, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. These are these are questions that are not easily answered by a yes or no or a short answer, containing only limited information. Open-ended questions invite more elaboration and thinking more deeply about an issue. Can anybody out there give me an example of what a open-ended question may be with one of our students?
An open-ended question would be one that doesn't stop with yes or no as an answer. So it could be, tell me about your current housing situation.
Yes,
And Denisha put in the chat, why do you want to get your high school diploma? And,
perfect.
and Jennifer
so-
said, oh, there's a few coming in the
Oh,
chat.
good.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So Maria says, what are your future goals? Jennifer Lemos says, what are your goals for this cycle?
No, perfect. And those types of questions, they're not easily answered with a yes or no, because if they were a close-ended question, we'd get very limited, if any, information from the student. The purpose of using open-ended questions is to establish a safe environment, build a trusting and respectful relationship. It also helps to explore, clarify, and gain an understanding of what is going on with the student. It also helps to learn past experiences, feelings, thoughts, and beliefs and behaviors. Also, it helps us gather information. Can somebody give us what the opposite, some examples of a closed question, a closed-ended question would be for a student?
So from the chat, we have, do you like school? Do you like class?
Yes, exactly.
Do you want your GED?
Right, this is where a student can easily say yes, yes, no, no, perfect. And I put some examples down here for us. They're specific to the population that we work with. What motivated you to pursue your GED? How do you envision your life changing after you earn your GED? Who or what has been most supportive? And who or what has been most helpful with your pursuit of your GED preparation? So those are all really good examples that everybody gave. Any questions about open-ended questions? Sorry about the distraction. Okay. The next strategy for motivational interviewing is affirmation statements, which recognize the client's strength. They assist in building a rapport and help the students see themselves in a different, more positive light. Who wants to give some examples of affirmations that we may use in our field with GED, ESL, or CTE students? All right. Oh,
In the chat, we have, I'm so proud of you for showing up every day.
yes, perfect. But in the purpose that we use affirmation statements is that does help build rapport. It demonstrates empathy. It affirms the person's world or their exploration of their world. It affirms the student's past decisions or abilities. And highlights healthy behaviors. And it also builds, again, that self-efficacy, I don't know, I can't say it today, and the ability to believe that they are responsible for their own decisions. So I also put some examples up here of some affirmations that can be used in our field. I can see you've put a lot of effort into studying for your GED. Your hard work is really paying off. You've been really consistent with your study schedule. That's a great commitment to your goals. You're on your way. Your math skills have improved significantly since we started. Well done. Your decision to pursue your GED shows a lot of initiative and independence. And I know myself as a case manager working with students, even if it's the smallest achievement that they made, or I try to find something even in something negative, is to highlight that, to give them the affirmation, to put whatever it is in a positive light. It could be getting to school that day after their kids were sick for the entire week and then getting their assignment done, or showing up to their test, or going to work after a really long day. Any questions about affirmation statements? All right, I'm going to move on to reflections, and that's reflective listening. And that has two primary purposes. The first is to bring to life the principle of expressing empathy by carefully listening and using reflective responses. And also this helps guide the student towards resolving ambivalence by focusing on the negative aspects of change and the positives of making that change. This one, who wants to give some examples of what reflective listening you may use with your students? I'll talk about the purpose of reflective listening. It helps demonstrate to the student that you're listening and trying to understand their situation. You offer the student an opportunity to hear their own words, their feelings, their behaviors. It offers them an opportunity just to be in the moment, that you're listening. And I will give you my examples if nobody has examples of reflective listening. Here's one, the student: I find it hard to study after a long day at work. Something a case manager can respond with: you're feeling exhausted after work. That makes studying difficult. That's a reflective response. Student: I want to get my GED, but I'm worried I won't be able to keep up with the classes. The case manager may say something like, oh, you're committed to earning your GED, but you're concerned about balancing it with your responsibilities. It kind of validates what the student is saying, and that they know that you are listening to, they're being heard. All right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to the next strategy, which is summaries. Oh, I think there's something in the chat.
Denisha gave an example of, I understand you want to get your GED, but have failed in the past.
Oh, good. Thank you, Denisha. The last strategy within motivational interviewing is called summaries. And this is when what it says, summarize or recap all or part of the interaction you had with the student. It's important within it when you're from a motivational interviewing standpoint to highlight the student's ambivalence about change, promote the development of the discrepancy by bringing together the key points of the conversation, but also reinforcing the important insight. So for example, I put down here, is there something in the chat? Case manager: so from what you shared, usually it's good to start off with something like that. So I'm hearing from you. So from what you shared, you're finding it challenging to balance work, family responsibilities, and studying for your GED. However, you're motivated to earn your GED because you want to improve your job prospects and provide a better future for your family. You particularly focused on improving your math skills as well, as that's been a tough subject for you. As you can see in the example here, I highlighted the key concepts or parts of the conversation with the student. And I did give a couple more examples of what that looks like. Does anybody want to give an example of summarizing in motivational interviewing? So my next one is, you've mentioned that despite your busy schedule, that you've been consistently attending classes and doing your homework. You're proud of your progress. You made progress you made in reading and writing, and you started to feel more confident in these areas. A lot of times it helps to summarize your the conversation you're having with student. And again, this is about building rapport with the student. I'm just going to go on to the next. So within motivational interviewing, one of the things that we look for is the commitment to language. So when we're working with an individual, as I stated earlier, they may come in with doubt, not very confident, these different attributes. And so what we look for as a case manager using this theory is the predictors of behavioral change. So we look for the things like desire, ability, reasons, and need, and statistically, that's the change in language or the commitment to the language that leads to the behavioral change. And I have examples over here. So they call this change talk and within motivational interviewing. It's an indicator towards motivation to change. And this is what it sounds like. So the desire would be, I want to change. The ability is, I can change. The reasons, I should change because. And need, I must change. And commitment, I am going to change. Does anybody have any questions about change that? Okay. So strengthening commitment and these 4 processes. This is basically a summary right here, is engaging in a supportive, collaborative, working relationship, focus on clear goals for change, help the person bring out their own motivations within themselves, and then developing a specific plan, and then determining what steps the person is ready for and willing to take. So, and I got through this way faster than I thought I was going to, and I apologize because I usually make things too long. But this is what motivational interviewing is. This actually, I could make it's several series and break it down. Let me know if you want more information or if you want me in the future to break this down into different sections. This is an overview of what it is. And I like that they have this acronym, darn cat ears. And this is what motivational interviewing theory is in a overall. So 1, there's a desire. Why do you want to make this change? And if you follow these things, this is something great to follow if you're using this tactic. 2, ability. How might you be able to do it? Reason. What is one good reason for making change? Need. How important is it and why? On a scale from 0 to 10, where are you with your desire for this need? Next is commitment. What do you intend to do? Next, activation. What are you ready or willing to do? Taking steps. What have you done already? Now, next one is elaboration. And these are strategies that we use for those steps is to ask for elaboration or an example, in what ways and how. Affirmations, offer affirmations, agree, encourage, support. Reflections, reflect on what the person has said, and then summarize all of that. But I thought this was cute that they have the darn cat ears, and basically that is the process of motivational interviewing. And this is the end of the session today. Does anybody have any questions?
Has anybody been using motivational interviewing already in their practice?
Oh, good.
Shirley-
There's somebody that does.
Yeah, Shirley says I do.
Good. Is for anybody, is this who's not familiar with motivational interviewing? There are a lot of websites that you can go to get information about, if you want more information about motivational interviewing. The author do have a book. The last book they put out was in 2013. The ideas, the theory has stayed the same. It changes slightly based on the sending, but the principles, the spirit of it, and the strategies are all the same. Good. Does anybody have any questions?
While you guys are thinking about your questions, I am going to put in the chat a couple of links. So one of them is an evaluation for today. or for any of the lunch and learns that you might have attended. And then the other piece of information in there is that we have one more lunch and learn scheduled, which is on the 16th of July, managing assist data and reporting through GED Manager. And the registration link is there for that as well. And then the last item there is a survey that we're just putting out. You guys are the first ones to get the link. But really what we're looking for is feedback from you guys about what you would like us to program into our lunch and learn for next year. So we'll take a little break after July, probably come back in October, but we'll be doing some planning in August. So it'd be really great to get your feedback. There's just more sort of general questions. And then if you have any specific topics, like very explicit, you can type those into that survey, and that is incredibly helpful for us. Denisha, I mentioned that if we are mispronouncing anyone's name, please correct us because I'm terrible sometimes.
All right, I see Maria has a question in the chat. When summarizing the key points of the conversation, are you just reiterating what they have mentioned along with the strategies you talked about? Yes, so you're using the strategies. So use the strategies as a guide, but it is a summary of everything that took place in the conversation. And that just helps the individual know that you're listening to them. And also it's a time where if maybe we interpreted something wrong with what they said, that, we can be both on the same page, but yes. Did that answer your question, Maria? Okay, and Denisha, yes, it's a great tool for developing individualized plans and building rapport with students. I didn't go into, which I wish I would now, didn't go into the last stage, and that is the planning stage of what's next. So now we've worked with an individual, and we've got through all these different phases, and let's think of what our action plan might be, and that could be for another one. But again, this could be a very long presentation, and it's a good one. Feel free to look. I did put my resources in the back of the presentation, where you can find different links and books about this. Is there any other questions? You're welcome, Maria.
Chantal, you've been using this with students in your program?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been using motivational interviewing. I feel like at this point, it's something you definitely do have to practice with, and then over time it becomes more natural. But yes, I've been using it for a long time. My background is I'm a certified school counselor, and I also worked in agencies, so I've been familiar with it for some time. It's good for I think it's great for adult education, especially during like an intake or with case management, because there's like what they call a mini motivational interview, where it's not so intense, because this could get very, very intense, or it doesn't have to be. Just using these tactics and these strategies just to get information from students. The more that we know about a student, we can help them reduce the barriers so they reach their goals.
And Shirley says it's phenomenal during intake. So
Yes.
that's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of how I presented this. Again, it's more of like a watered down or condensed version of it. And I think using darn cat ears is a great tactic to use for intake. Any other questions?
It's a shy bunch.
I
but-
know. And
but-
I always overdo it, never have enough time. This is the first time I think in my life this ever occurred.
Chantal and I were actually talking about this before the ssession started, how we both have
Yes.
a habit of overfilling our sessions, and she was being very careful today. So
For the first time. So
so what will happen now is that this recording will be put up on our YouTube channel, and in the next day or two, we will be sharing the link to the video, and also is it okay, Chantal, to share these slides? Yep. So we'll be sharing the
absolutely.
slides, and you'll have all of these resources. And do consider, like, even from today, if there are particular areas of this that you would like to see more on, that the survey for our planning for next year is a great opportunity for requesting, letting us know what day you prefer to have these, and then also topics that you'd like to see. And I think we can let folks go. Anyone who wants to stay on can stay on.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or specific questions, I can stay on.
But
Thank
thank
you,
you all for being
Chantal.
here.
Oh, you're welcome, Lori. You're welcome.
Yeah, we really appreciate this. So Chantal is a member of the NYACCE board, and we really appreciate the folks who jumped in to do these presentations. So thank you, Chantal, for that.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna say goodbye because I'm working on the EPI application. Doodles, good luck to the rest of you.
Yes, it is that time of year. June is tricky. We really appreciate all of you for being here because we know there's many other things going on. All right, I'm going to stop recording at least.